right, welcome back. We are back in Nairobi now. Let's get away from Homa Bay for a minute. But this morning, it's Biashara Tuesday, as I'd mentioned earlier, and we want to talk about a topic that, of course, cuts across professions and even age groups, and this is balancing employment and side hustles. And we know that, right now, a lot of people are trying to just try and incorporate other side hustles into their careers. But what is the best way to do it? What are the risks to look out for, the factors to look out for, even as you look for a side hustle to try and complement your career, just to build your income? And with me in studio, I have George Munga, actually the best person to have this conversation with. George is a finance analyst and, of course, a managing partner at AMG Consulting Group, to take us through everything that we need to know in regards to balancing employment and, of course, side hustles. Karibu sana, George. Good to have you.
Thank you, Anne.
Asante. Let's start with the bigger picture. Side hustles are growing in the country. What would you attribute this to? Because, people have careers. Lakini unasikia tena a lot of people are saying that, we have to counter this with a side hustle. Is it about incomes or salaries not being enough in the job market? Or is it about people just doing it for the sake of doing it?
I think Kenya is an evolving economy, and that an evolving economy, in most developed economies like the US, you'll find people doing 2, 3, or 4 jobs in a day. And I can tell you, and that is where Kenya is going. The economy has been tight, so people are tight in the pocket. So they're looking for something to add at least a shilling or more in their pockets. That is what brings in the side hustle. I think that is a good space that we are in. That now people would not want to depend solely on one stream of or one source of income, but you have 1, 2, or 3 sources of income. It shows you that we are moving towards a developed economy, or as we speak, as it is now, we're a middle income economy. So in the future, I'm seeing a country where people will be holding maybe 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. Somebody works is 8 to 5 job, and then in the evening they can do something online, or a side hustle, so to speak. But side hustles are not just side hustles; they're sources of income. People call them side hustles. That is not. Actually, they are jobs that people do, because anything that earns you income is a job that you're doing. And maybe, and we might extend it, not only side hustles apart from your job, but even people who are in college sometimes engage in economic activities bringing income to them. Yeah. And if you look at the developed economies, that is where the big innovations come from.
Is that a side hustle, George? So for people in college?
Yes, they are.
They have no choice, they're students.
You see their main call at that time is to study. But if you find somebody goes a step ahead and does something on the side. So he's doing his study maybe part-time, but at the same time he's doing something that is bringing in income. And those are the businesses that eventually evolve to become corporates. So in my mind, I think that is where Kenya should be heading, that we can have businesses that are incubated at the university, and then when this individual graduates from the university, they can establish this and become a proper corporate that employs people and even earns income to the economy. Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from that context of college, and we know that this is somebody maybe just selling something like sweets to start with, then how do they now grow that business to something bigger, that you say that even after college, it now grows into something that can employ somebody, can employ them, and even now going past, even now, going after employment itself, but now they're their own employers. What are these type of side hustles that would grow to that level?
And we are in the digital space, or the digital age. And if I can give you examples that I know that the likes of Meta company was started by people, by individuals when they were in college. Yeah. The likes of Google Group were inventions that were done by individuals when they were still in college, and they went on to build those companies to the multi-billion-dollar companies that they are today. So I would not advise the younger people or those who are currently employed just to think of the usual business that we have done all through, but think about the digital space. How can we harness that to build proper corporate that can employ people, not only within our borders in Kenya, but even outside the country? Because remember, with the digital age or with the digital space, you're not limited to your geographical space alone. your reach is beyond your country or even beyond your continent. Nowadays, you can be doing a side hustle here for somebody in the United States or from China. So that is the thinking that I think most of us, the young people or people who are in college, should start thinking along.
And you know, I was reading somewhere that many people dive into these side hustles without assessing the readiness, you know, of being able now to start these side hustles, aside from having also these careers. And some say that, you know, some form them or come up with these side hustles due to desperation. So how does that mindset really affect the success of that, you know, side hustle, building and growing, you know, even as much as you grow your career, you still have your career and also try to grow your side hustle?
Let me tell you, Anne, I started the farm that I run today when I was still employed. That time I was employed in a commercial bank. You know, commercial banks, the way they're very tight with your time. They really push you to deliver. But at the end of the day, when I'm done with my 8 to 5 job, I would still sit down and look at a client's file up to around 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. And when the time was ripe, I had to transition now from my employment to now what I would call side hustle then, but I knew that was the career that I was going to pursue. Yeah. So what I can say as a critical success factor for side hustle is that it's something that you must be passionate about. That's number one. And then number two, don't just do it for the little income that you're earning from it, but look at it from a bigger picture, that this is something that maybe you'd want to do after you have exited your formal employment. Formal employment is very good. I would want to encourage the young people that formal is very good because it gives you the experience, it gives you the initial capital that you need to establish your company at a later stage, but more importantly the experience. But as you do that, if you want to establish your side hustle as a business, then you must be serious about it. You must be able to keep proper records of what you are doing so that even as you progress, you can see that this year I was able to maybe earn 100,000. Next year I'm earning 200,000, so that you see what are these critical success or critical areas that I need to touch on to so that this side hustle of mine can succeed. And of course, let me just take this time now to invite our viewers to be part of this conversation on X at TV47 News KE. You can tag me as well at @Ann_Dida. And if you have a question for George here, there will be a number on your screen very shortly. You can call in live to ask your question. And of course on Facebook as well at TV47 Kenya and YouTube at TV47 Kenya. Now, George, we've talked about some of the things to look out for. Of course, once that side hustle is in place, which includes, you know, keeping record and keeping track of, you know, your side hustle and your income as they come in. But now, what are the factors to consider before, you know, starting this side hustle? Because when you're employed, you're fully involved. Correct. So what factors do you put into consideration? There's something that I've learned through my career as an employed person and now as a business owner. Number one is integrity, very critical. If you're employed, then you must ensure that you give your employer what is due to your employer. If it is 8 to 5, you must deliver. If it is a target, you must deliver. So that when you're transitioning from now your 8 to 5 job to what you want to do as a side hustle, then you've given your employer what is due to him. Remember when Christ says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Right. Meaning, if I'm your employer and I demand you to do this X, Y, Z for me before I give you your salary, then ensure that is done. So number one is integrity. Number two is a mental application of whatever you're doing or of your side hustle, meaning get immersed into whatever it is that you're doing. Just don't do it for the sake of doing it or for the sake of maybe earning a shilling or not or two out of it. Remember during the COVID pandemic, most people who are employed got themselves doing roadside sales or roadside groceries. Yeah. But I think that those are not side hustles, but those were knee-jerk reactions to what was happening at that time, because at that time people had now more hours that was in their hand that previously they didn't have, or some of them maybe were were placed on suspensions that maybe they're not anticipated. So that was knee-jerk. A side hustle that you want to succeed must not be a knee-jerk reaction to a particular situation. It must be something that you're intentional about, that this is what I want, this is something I want to do. Look at it as something you'd want to retire to if you are to retire. I know most people who are employed or who are in university would one day want to establish their businesses or establish their enterprises that they can also employ other people. So you must be intentional. This is something you want to do. This is something you want to do for posterity, so that even as you wake up or as you transition to it after you have done your 8 to 5, then you know this, you must apply yourself and give the maximum effort that you want to give to it. And you must be diligent about it. What I mean by being diligent, you must make sure that you can account for the time that you are putting into this business. Why am I saying that? If I am putting in, say, 2 or 3 hours a day, and I'm earning 100,000 maybe at the end of the month, then I can clearly see that if I put my whole day into it, then I can make maybe $1 million or 2 in a month. That is what being intentional about your side hustle is.
And now that you talk about sometimes people selling on the streets, hawking, you don't consider that a side hustle, do you?
It is a side hustle. I want to give you an example. I read a lot of business documentaries. I want to give the example of the individual who was doing Nice and Lovely, or the L'Oreal business before it was taken over by the French. He was doing hawking of shampoos in town, just at the CBD, and then he went into now manufacturing, the very conventional manufacturing of those shampoos, and then he grew that business now to be more formal, and eventually he sold it out to the French at I think 2 or 3 billion shillings. I think that is the early 2000s. That is what being intentional is about. Even as you hawk, don't look at it as just what you get on a daily basis, maybe 100, 200, or even 500 shillings per day. How can you scale that business to the next level? I normally hear most people talking about lack of capital. I think when you were in business school, that was the number one factor when you ask what are the factors that hinder business growth. Lack of capital. I don't agree that lack of capital is a hindrance to business growth or to growth in side hustles. The hindrance is your level of thought. How much have you dreamt about this side hustle? Is it just something that you want to be giving your daily bread, or is it something that you want to scale to a level that becomes a corporate? And I was reading a documentary about the Coca-Cola company that we know today, and how it was started way back in early 19th century. That was 1870 something. That these individuals wanted to build a company that would be a global company, even as they were starting. So when they were starting with trials with chemical mixtures that they could sell. And at one point they went damn broke. They could not even afford to do advertisements, so they had to bring in somebody to do advertisements for them, and sold a part of the company to them. So that tells you that this is somebody who, despite the fact that they didn't have the money at that time, but they knew what they were targeting at the end of it, and you can clearly see the brand Coca-Cola today. So in my mind, Anne, I don't think lack of capital is a hindrance to business growth. Hindrance to business growth is your level of imagination, your level of dream. If you dream big, then the capital will follow that dream.
And you know, somebody is watching and could be wondering, because I'm also wondering, George, I have this idea to start this side hustle, but I really don't have the finances, you know, to set it up and to start it. You're talking about a capital cannot be a hindrance to somebody starting their side hustle. Then at what point do I start exactly? Do I have to save from the income that I'm getting in my career for that side hustle? Or how do I now build, you know, whatever I already have to setting up, you know, the side hustle that I need? What
I say when I mean capital should not be a hindrance is if if I want to go to Mombasa, is it?
Yes.
And I know I cannot afford an air ticket,
Yes.
then I'd go for a bus, is it? A bus is 1,000 shillings. You get I don't know if you get that analogy.
Yes.
That I know that I want to build this business into a multi-billion-dollar company, but currently what I can afford today as we speak is 100,000. What can I do with this 100,000 to lay the first foundation or to lay the first step towards this this business? It will take quite some time before I reach my destination, but if I know the road path, if I know where I want to go to, then I can assure you that my 100,000 will just be seed capital that goes into building what eventually I want to build. That is what I call purpose, and that is what I call not looking at bottlenecks into what eventually you want to do. If you looked at what Tabitha Karanja has built, I hope that's a public company I can quote, the Karachi Industries. If you read the history of that business, then where they started from and where they are today are quite worlds apart. They started as street sellers of wine, and then eventually they went into manufacturing of cheap drinks, and then eventually they become a competitor of EABL. That is how you build your business. Than that you know that I want to reach this 2, 3, or 4 billion shillings company. But today, I can only get 100,000. Where can I start? And there's always a starting point.
And of course, George, I know you've worked with so many people, advising them just matters, finances, how they can, build it up and of course grow their income. But what is your blueprint in terms of just evaluating that, you are employed and you're ready, to start up your side hustle without sabotaging this career of theirs?
There's something that I normally have a problem with when I listen to business people. When somebody comes to me and tells me that I do general supplies, that's not a business model. Or if somebody was to come to your office here and tell you, I want employment, and then you ask them, what can you do?
Anything.
Then tell you anything. That's not somebody who is serious. That's somebody who's not looking for something to do. Somebody who is serious and is intentional about what they want to do, they know their strength, and they know in this space, what I can do is this, and that is where I want to focus on. If you are to go to pitch for capital and say, I want to invest, I want to do health, and I want to start from this point, and what I need is 1 million shillings, then somebody would want to listen to you. But when you go to pitch for capital and you say, I want to do supplies, I want to do health, I want to do, then nobody listens to you. So number one is that you must be focused on what you want to do. And being focused on what you want to do is the area that you are best at. If you know you are best at anchoring, then that is your line. That is where you need to focus on. How can I harness this skill that I have? That is what you have that all the other people don't have. Remember, you are going into a market space where there are other players, and those other players, or what the market is looking for, is somebody who can deliver the best of what they're doing. That's the person who will be a cut above the others. So number one is to look at what are your strengths. Once you identify those strengths, then be intentional about building that strength to become a business. Something that I always struggle with, also business people, is how do you commercialize your strength? You get my point? Like that applies mostly to artists. How do I commercialize whatever strength or whatever talent that I have? If you're looking at how to commercialize, then you need to talk to business coaches, so that they can tell you that you have this talent, but this is how you can commercialize it so that it becomes a business venture. Otherwise, you can be having a talent, but you cannot commercialize. You cannot earn from it.
You talked about sometimes you do not consider a general supplier, as a side hustle. But let's talk about bills. Let's bring it down now to the common mwananchi. Tunaenda pale Gikomba and we see, a lot of business, they call themselves business persons, and they say they are supplying bills. Kama ni dresses, they have these dresses for bills. They sell them at 12,000 and people, come for them. Do you consider that a viable side hustle if somebody is, in full-time employment?
Definitely, definitely. If I can be bringing in my mitumba consignments at the port, and somebody goes and collects them from me, and then I sell them early in the morning. You know those guys sell very early in the morning.
Yes.
By 6 o'clock or by 5 o'clock they're done. And I'm done with that and go to that's a perfect side hustle. And if you are to harness that and eventually maybe go into that full time, then that becomes a business for you. There's a gentleman that we were working with when I was still employed, and they used to bring in electronics. They used to bring in TVs. They used to bring in, when you want a TV, tell you, wait, just give me a few days, I'll bring for you. I'll bring for you. He'll bring one piece. I don't know how I was doing it, but I believe he was doing consolidation. He'll bring one piece of a TV, maybe a laptop or something like that, and deliver, and you pay him. Eventually, that is the business is currently doing, is bringing in TVs, all electronics that you name, and there's a very big shop downtown. So that is how you harness your side hustle. That I've known this particular business line. You start small. You see, again, the challenge of most young people, most people who are in employment, is that you want to start big. You want to start today, and tomorrow you are in the news. It doesn't work that way. It takes quite some time before you start earning good money from it. So start as small as maybe even 50,000, and then you grow. What I said, Anne, that must be a take home for whoever is watching us, is the level of integrity. Remember, this person who has employed you is also in business, meaning they have to earn money to be able to pay you your salary at the end of the day. So ensure that if you are employed, then you're 8 to 5, you're dedicated to your employer. If there are targets you're supposed to meet, then meet them, so that at the end of the day, when you eventually go to do your side hustle, then you have cleared whatever targets or whatever business that your employer had given you. That way, even you, when you eventually transition into business or your side hustle, you will expect integrity from the persons you employ.
And that brings me to the question of conflict of interest in your career, the job market, and now you're fully employed. But now, what are those contractual risks that us as employees should look out for before considering going into side hustling as well?
I think that is a very good question, Anne. I know most companies or most employers will put a caveat in your employment contract that you cannot do a competing business, and I think that is reasonable. And if TV47 has employed you as an anchor in this institution, and then you go and again start side hustle as maybe a YouTube host or a host somewhere, then you see you're in competing business with your employer. That is not right legally and not right ethically. If you have to do a side hustle, then it has to be something that is not in direct competition with your employer. Otherwise, if you have to do something that's in direct competition with your employer, then the honorable thing is to resign from your employer and go and focus on whatever it is that you are doing. I'll give you an example. When I was in the banking industry, the individuals who would start micro-lending businesses. And where do they get their clients from? From the bank. That is conflict of interest. I don't think it is ethical, because this is an institution that has employed you, that pays you for the 30 days that you work for them every single month, and you're employed there to safeguard the interest of their clients. If it's the same clients that you take and push to your business, then I think that is not being ethical.
And employers vary, of course, and some may tolerate their employees having side hustles, and some will totally be against it. If you look at it from that lens, then George, when is the right time to disclose to your employer that I have this side hustle that I'm doing, and when is it the right time to just remain silent? And is it really right to just disclose to your employer that I have, as much as it doesn't really have any conflict of interest, but is it a good thing to disclose to your employer that you have another side hustle that is also bringing in income and helping you just live a normal life?
That depends on from employer to employer. Those employers who tolerate you doing your side hustle, and there are those who would not. So it will depend on your intelligence as an individual to know whether to disclose or or not. But if your side hustle is not in direct competition with your employer, then I think it is in your best interest to disclose, because sometimes at the end of the day, even when you transition, maybe your employee will become your client. You never know. I've seen persons who exit from the employment, and the former employer becomes their client. But again, you must be very careful, because some employers don't tolerate such. So you might be inviting your matching orders. Yes. So you must be very, very careful about it before you disclose. But I think if it reaches a point where now your side hustle is consuming more time than the time you dedicate your employer, then just good to disclose and exit honorably.
Interesting. And I was listening to a video clip yesterday, around managing finances, and the lady was talking about how some side hustles do clash with, employment, and sometimes they don't, complement your career. Then how do we identify these side hustles that, this one complements my career, and this one really does clash with it? And which ones tend to backfire? If you're looking at it, you can use any example. Could be myself, could be yourself, could be somebody in another career. What are those side hustles that tend to clash, when you try to bring them, alongside your career?
If I wanted to engage in a side hustle, if I'm still in employment, then one, I would look at one conflict of interest. I would want to avoid something that will be directly in conflict with my employer. Number two, I'd look at the values of my employer. If I was employed by, say, CITAM, because they employ, is it? Yeah. And then I want to do a side hustle as a disc jockey in a club, then there's a very big conflict between their values and whatever I'm doing. So you must be very careful which side hustle you want to engage in. If you're employed in a commercial bank, then the values requires that you must be professional at all time. So if your side hustle was, say, which one can I give an example? Maybe an advertising job that requires that you go outside there in the streets and do some jigs, then maybe that's something that they'll not take very easily. But there are side hustles that you'll do that will be in line with with the values that your employer holds, and those ones you'll find goes very smoothly with your employer. So you must look at the values of your employer. And then number two, it must never be in conflict with what your employer offers in the market space.
Let's go back to that point of disclosure. And, for employees whose employers discourage or outright forbid, side hustles in the workplace, but they feel the need to just boost themselves financially, and they need to have, a side hustle. So how do they do it in that particular situation? Because, your body, your mind, and soul, you want to start this side hustle, but, your employer is totally against it. Then how do they go about it?
I think sometimes if you're convinced that this is the direction you want to go, if this is where your heart and mind leads you, and I normally say for side hustles or for serious businesses, follow your mind, not your heart. Always follow your mind. So meaning you must do analytical thinking before you engage into whatever you want to do. Just don't follow your heart, because sometimes our hearts are emotions. Yes. Put it that way. So that it's very clear. Yeah. Don't just follow emotions, but follow a proper thought process, so that this is what I want to do. If your employer is not comfortable with what you are doing, then sometimes it is easier to just quit. Back in 2015, when I resigned from my employment, I was in a very senior position as a bank manager. I realized that my immediate supervisor was not very comfortable with what I was doing. Though I had disclosed earlier on about what I was doing, but they were not very comfortable with that. So the honorable thing to do at that point was to say, it is okay, let me step back and leave somebody else to continue with whatever it is that I was doing. That comes back to the ethics and the integrity. Remember, this person is also in the marketplace and they're doing something for the market. And if they think that whatever you're doing is not in tandem with what their vision is, then the honorable thing is to step back. But I want to encourage those who are involved in side hustles that they need to think big and sometimes take the risks head on. Meaning, sometimes go with that resignation letter and say, I'm going to do A, B, C, D. Let it work or let it fail. It is only through failure that you succeed. You can never succeed if you don't fail. So if you're afraid to fail, then you'll never succeed in anything. So sometimes it's good to take the bull by its horns, go and tender that resignation letter, but ensure that you have proper risk mitigating mechanisms behind you. Don't make blind moves. That is why I was saying, think with your head, not with your heart.
All right. And George, we're still on that point. Then when is the right time and perfect time to, say goodbye to that side hustle? Say it's here, it was already running well, it has hit 1 year mark. Because I think if it has hit that 5-year mark, then it's already safe. Because they say businesses, for it to be successful, it has to hit that 5-year mark thereabout. But when is the right time to leave that side hustle? And I mean this by, burnout that comes from, the physical, the mental, the health. Now it's, it's affecting families as well, the relationships. Then when do I know that, this side hustle, as much as it's bringing me income, it's not serving me right?
Anna, if I got you right, if my side hustle is bringing me income and I'm getting profits from it,
yes,
I'm very hesitant to leave that side hustle. I don't know if it is the capitalism in me that tells me that. But
how about
let me expand it.
Yes.
There are side hustles, there are business that I would do that year in, year out I'm doing, but I'm not seeing growth. Sometimes you're just able to pay your recurrent expenditure, but you're not seeing growth year on year. Or sometimes it is even eating from your salary or eating from your other sources of income. If year one you've done that and you've not seen a return, year two you've done that and you have not seen a return, year three you've not seen a return, then sometimes it is good at the third or the fourth year to say, this one is not working, let me try something else. Sometimes we tend, as human beings, we tend to hold close to things that are sentimental to us. Maybe this is a business maybe this is my first business, so it's quite sentimental to me. So I would not want to let it go. But if it's draining my finances year in, year out, then sometimes it is something that you'd want to leave, to let go. Let me come to your point about burnout. When for a businessman or a business lady, for that matter, Anne, if my business is earning me income and I'm feeling burnout, then what that means is I'm stretching myself too far. What that essentially means is that I need to bring in somebody to assist me run this business. So instead of quitting because of burnout, I would want to hire somebody who is equally competent as I am to be able to assist me run this company. So that instead of having 2 hands, now I have 4 hands, and that will save me time even for me to go on holiday. Yes.
All right, let's take a very short break, George, very timely. And I've seen a question here for you, and she's asking, is delegation of the side hustle a safer option? Okay. You're watching Morning Cafe. The conversation you're having this morning is balancing employment and side hustles. Do interact with us on our socials at TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. And when we come back, there will be a number on your screen for you to call in if you have any questions for George here. Do stay with us.
It's a people. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going up.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. It's Biashara Tuesday, and the conversation you're having this morning is how to balance employment and side hustles. And George Munga is here with us to help us with this conversation. Once again, George is a finance analyst and a managing partner at AMG Consulting Group. And as I had promised, to interact with us on our socials, we'll be sure to read your feedback and questions if you do have for George here. That is on X at TV47 News KE. Any concerns you have, surrounding how to balance that employment that you have, and of course, if you want to start a side hustle as well. And there is a number on your screen, or there will be a number on your screen very shortly. Do call in if, of course, you still have a question for George as well. And just before we went on that very short break, you're talking about delegation, and there is a question that came in for you that. Is it safe, if you have a side hustle, you have your career, is it safe to delegate that side hustle for somebody else to run it without losing your record and also guaranteed income coming in still intact, just assuming you are still running your business without a delegation? And how do you now control it without losing that quality, quality of touch in that side hustle?
I think I would answer that question by saying that when you start a side hustle, the goal should be to move that side hustle from just being a side hustle to a fully fledged business. If you move it to that, then number one, you create structures. When you create structures, then a business can run with or without you. You only become an entrepreneur if your business or your establishment can run whether you are there or not. If your business still requires your personal input, your personal touch, then it still remains a side hustle or a self-employment enterprise, not necessarily a business. So the goal for any person who is starting a side hustle is to transition it within 1 year or two into a business enterprise. Once it becomes that, then it can run without your personal touch. And that is the phase where now companies start to grow. How do you minimize loss of touch? Number one is the most critical aspect of any business is the money side. So ensure that you get a good accountant in your enterprise who can, on a daily basis, tells you that this is the amount of money that this business is spending, and this is the amount of money that this business is earning. And at the end of the day, when it tells you that, go and confirm in your bank statement, did that money come, or at the end of the month, did that money come or or not, so that at the end of the day, you always have a bird's eye view of your finances. The rest of the teams can be there and doing the day-to-day, but the finances you must be very close to. So take home is ensure that you have proper structures in your business that can sustain that business with or without your personal touch.
Talk to us about safest funding models for side hustles, because you talked about sometimes, you're in employment, you have a side hustle, and you have to dig into, that salary that you're getting just to try and fund this side hustle of yours. But what are the safest funding models that prevent an employee from, going into debt and of course just destabilizing how their family operations work, because now they have to take some money from the usual income to this side hustle.
And remember, I gave you the analogy of somebody wants to go to the coast and they have an option of either taking an air ticket or using a bus or SGR. Sometimes you don't have money, you'll go with the SGR, which is 1,500, is it? As opposed to a KQ ticket, which is 18,000. So that is where now integrity or diligence comes in. If I know that my business will require a capital of, say, 1 million shillings in a year from today, and how do I raise that 1 million shillings? If I give a plan of, say, 2 or 3 years to raise that 1 million shillings, that I start from the 100,000 shillings that I have today and build it from my savings until I reach the 1 million shillings, then I start my business. Sometimes if you want to start, say, a manufacturing company, you can start from trading. I'll give you an example, and I'll not mention names because these are live cases. There's a client of mine who is doing maize milling currently, a very big maize miller in this country. What they were doing before they went into milling is they were employed at Unga flour mills as a salesperson. What they did is they were able to put in savings together year in, year out to start now a distributorship business for still Unga, meaning now they have transitioned from being employed by Unga to now a distributor of Unga, so that they get a commission out of that. Through that, they get experience. And from now, the distributorship, they started the milling now themselves, is it? So you can see the transition, that this guy knew that at the end of the day, I want to do a mill. I want to be a miller, just the same way as Unga is doing it. But because I don't have the 3, 4, 5 billion to start the milling company, I must start somewhere. How about I start from distributorship? For distributorship, the only thing I need is trucks, is it? Maybe for 5, 6 million shillings, is it? And I can distribute this company's product all around. And then from the distribution, now because I have the knowledge, I have the experience, I have the clients, because now I know the clients, is it? I can go and approach a lender to give me money to set up the milling. So the roadmap is you must start from somewhere, and in most cases you start from your savings, and from your savings you start building something. As you build, you see capital goes towards structures. As you build, when somebody has seen that you have structures and you have something that you can put pen to paper to, then they'll be able to give you money to support the dream that you have. So start small and then grow as you progress.
Talk to us now about time management as well, George, because you mentioned something that if your side hustle is now starting to take your time from your your employment, your career, then it's also not serving your employer, right? But what are the specific time management strategies that actually work? You have your career, you have your 8 or 9 to 5, and you also want to run your side hustle. How do you manage that time?
And I would want to challenge most young people, especially in our country, that if you want to succeed in any business, you must give it your time. Meaning, if I have a side hustle and I still must go to my workplace, then I'll ensure that I do my 8 to 5 as diligently as possible. And then immediately I hit 5, I transition into my side hustle. I'll give it maybe 3, 4, or 5 hours. So meaning I will sacrifice my sleep to be able to feed into this side hustle. Nothing comes without sacrifice. And at the end of the day, day, you must lessen your comfort to be able to achieve that which you want to achieve. So when it comes to time management, if you're still employed, then give your employer what is due to them. That is the 8 to 5. Then commit another 3, 4, or 5 hours into your side hustle. That way, you will see your side hustle grows. But again, as we talked a few minutes ago, watch out for any burnouts, and that is where now employing somebody to assist you comes in. And sometimes when you talk about employing somebody, somebody might think that you want to employ somebody who is very expensive. Sometimes by employing, maybe if you're married, maybe you can get your spouse to assist with that at no fee at all, because you're growing something together, or even a sibling to assist with running errands around. So by employing, it doesn't mean that you must commit a salary to it. You can employ somebody on very minimal salary, or even on zero salary as you start. Yes.
And I think the question that maybe a lot of people would have is to prevent that stealing of small money. Because if you say you have a duka that is running and you have your job, you're at work, but now if sometimes money is paid through cash and then they pocket it, then accountability can't be done. Then what options do we have, as people with side hustles and employment, just to ensure that we are not losing track and we are not losing these profits and money as well from our side hustles?
I would not call it stealing. Remember, these are still your money is earned. But what I would call it is financial accountability. And when I started my
George, from the delegation point of view, you have delegated this job, this side hustle. I've given you my job, and somebody pays cash, but now you pocket it.
Now from the other party,
from the other party, because now there are losses as compared to when you were there, when you were running that side hustle yourself. Then how do we now maintain that accountability?
And it's a delicate balance sometimes to be able to match. But we are quite ahead in finance, especially in Kenya. I travel around African countries a lot, and I can tell you that Kenya, we've advanced quite heavily when it comes to the financial space. So let me answer your question directly. If you want to avoid pilferage, then avoid cash transactions as much as possible. Remember, in shops nowadays, even shops, small shops, have till numbers. When I go to my barber, they give me a till number to pay. So put it as one of your policies that no cash is paid. In fact, you display it that you don't accept cash, as simple as that. And when you block that, then you know that you can account for all your finances. You can go back to Safaricom and ask them to print for you your till statement for the last 1 year, and you can see the monies that came in. You can reconcile that with your stock movement, so that you can see that on such a date we sold this much stock. How much did you get for that period? You can see that all the monies that were sold came into the till or into the bank account. So the most effective tool there is to avoid cash transaction as much as possible if you're not there. By the way, if you are not there and you're doing cash business, in most cases, especially in our country, you will get instances of cash pilferage. Somebody will take money here to go and use, because maybe they think that money now, because they have sold 100,000, all that money is yours. Little they know that is business money that needs to be recirculated back to business. So avoid cash transactions as much as possible. And then oversight. At least every single day, you must go and counter check that what was sold for that day has been banked. Ensure that you go and do that on every single day. If you leave that out and somebody realizes that they know they can toggle around with your finances, and maybe they say they'll pay you back when you pay them their salary, and sometimes it doesn't happen.
And George, there's also that delicate moment when now this side hustle starts generating more income than your salary. Then what are those factors that we should consider, before going to my employer and telling them that, I want to resign? It's a risk that you're taking. Say, is it really a risk if that side hustle is bringing me more money than my career is bringing in.
If your business brings in more money, let me call it side hustle at this moment, then you must go and restructure and see, is this business sustainable? Is it a going concern? Is it something that's sustainable for the foreseeable future before you go and resign? I'll give you an example, Anne. There are those, especially in our country, there are those things we call business, but they're not businesses. They're what we call deals, so to speak, or windfall gains. And sometimes you are tempted to go and resign from a windfall gain. I'll give you an example. When I was still very young in the banking industry, there was, I think it was a Ponzi scheme, let me put it that way. I'll not mention the name, that you would go invest, and maybe after 90 days you get double your investment. Some people thought that was a business case, and they went and resigned because they would invest 50,000, they get 150. They would invest 100,000, they get 300. And somebody thought, in our young minds then, that's a business model, that I can just be sitting at home and be investing and getting my money back. After I think 6 months, the scheme went down with all the savings of the people who had put in money there, and people were left destitute. So that was not a business model. That was a windfall, so to speak. So you cannot resign on a windfall. You can only resign on a business case that you can really put down to say, I'm doing this business, and this is how the business is operating. And I'll give you a more recent example. When the quill craze, I don't know if you're old enough to have heard about that in Kenya, that people would rear quills and they would sell them. And actually, in the initial stages, people were able to make money out of it. But that was not a business case. That was a windfall. You get my point? Yeah. So if that business, or if you're doing that particular business that time, and it was making you money that you was more than your employment, and you went and resigned because of that, then a few months down the line, you'd be in big trouble. So people must differentiate between windfall and actual business that you can write home about. If it's a business case and it is making money more than your employment, go ahead and resign and focus on your business. That's the only way that we can even as we can grow our economy. Because if a number of people can go out there and innovate and build business, those businesses will need people to employ, is it? And that is how you build an economy. But never do that on a windfall.
All right, I can already see some feedback on X, and I'll be getting into it in a few. But still that point on assessing if this business is long-term. You know, when we've talked with you here on this show about setting up an emergency fund, and we said sometimes it should go up to 3 months. Is it 6 months or 3 months? 6 months, yes. That is how we assess that, we can survive without an income. But how do we assess that this business now, it's time that I can now quit my employment and just go focus on this side hustle? How long should I take to assess that? Is it the 6 month, just the same as the emergency fund?
No. For a side hustle, you must wait until it is profitable enough to be able to, one, sustain your lifestyle, number one, and also be what we call self-liquidating, or can be self-sustaining. If my side hustle still requires that I pump in money, that's not the right time to transition into the side hustle. Or if the side hustle can now just barely meet its day-to-day running expenses, that's still not the right time to transition to the side hustle. But if the side hustle can pay its day-to-day running expenses and still can return some that I can live on, as an individual, my day-to-day living expenses, then maybe that's the right time now to transition into the side hustle. Because remember, this side hustle sometimes is feeding from your salary, or you must support it from your employment to be able to for it to continue. So you must ensure that your side hustle is profitable enough that it can cover all its recurrent expenditure or month-on-month expenditure, and still leave you with something that as an individual or as the business owner you can live on without your salary. If say your net salary, and by this I mean your net salary, if say your net salary is say 100 or 200,000, and your business can generate maybe 200 or 300,000 per month, then that's the right time to proceed and maybe transition to your side hustle. And then something I must mention, and in most cases we are tempted when our side hustles or when our business are doing well, that we resign unhonorably, and that's not the right thing to do. If that time reaches that you want to actually transition to your side hustle or to your business, do it honorably. Go and talk to your child, tell them that I've been doing this, or I'm planning to do this, and I would want to maybe take a step back and go and focus on that. If it works, I'll stay. If it doesn't work, can you allow me to come back? When you do that, you are giving yourself a bridge back, so that in case things don't work, because something don't work, you can wriggle your way back to employment. That it has happened. But when you resign unhonorably, then you burnt that bridge.
All right, let's get, I hope my director will allow me to get just 2 questions. And Mary Wanjiru is asking, George, mimi niko na kazi ya 8 to 5, but my boss expects me to be online even on weekends. How do you run a side hustle when your employer literally owns all your time?
I think let me answer that this way. You see, our contracts, go and study. I would want to advise our listener to go and study their contract. If my contract says that I'm supposed to be at work between 8 to 5, then any extra time that I give to my employer is actually a bonus that I'm giving to my employer. It's not an obligation from my side to give that to an employer. So either I'll negotiate with my employer to pay me something extra, what we call extra time, for this period that is taking, that is beyond the 8 to 5, or we'll agree that apart from the 8 to 5, my weekends are committed and I want to commit them elsewhere. Would you allow me to do that? Not unless there's something that is very urgent that requires my attention, then I can be able to attend to it. Otherwise, you should stick to your contract that says I'm supposed to be at work between 8 to 5. But of course, sometimes there are things that requires your attention even outside working hours. If that is the case, then just inform your employer that I'm able to attend to that, but in most cases, give me that time for my personal development.
All right, Karanja is saying, for someone earning minimum wage, where can they even start with a side hustle when capital is almost zero?
I told you that capital is never an impediment, Anne, when you're starting business. And when I started my consultancy, I only had my laptop only. That is the only asset that I have, that I had. I had to go and request for a workstation just for one person to be able to do that. So I knew I didn't have capital at that time, but I knew that this is what I want to do. So what I can say to our listener is, capital should never be a bottleneck if you want to achieve something. If I know I want to say own a TV station and I don't have capital, I can volunteer my experience to an already existing TV station. You get, and then from there now I'll transition maybe to setting up a YouTube channel, because maybe that requires maybe 10,000-20,000, and then after some time I'm able to own a channel, and then maybe I'm able to own equipment. Then after given number of years, I'm able to have my equipment, have my station. So what I'm saying is, it is not an instant cup of tea that you can say that I want to do this today and it has to happen. No, it is a journey that I know the end game is that, but I must start from here.
All right, thank you so much, George Munga. Unfortunately, our time is up. You know, we usually say even if you're given 2 hours, we cannot talk about everything. Thank you for making time once again. And George Munga is a finance analyst and a managing partner at AMG Consulting Group. Where can they find you? I should have given you a chance to say that. Tell them.
Our office is at Lower Hill Office Duplex. That is next to UAP Towers, opposite Coop Trust Plaza.
All right.
Yes.
Balancing employment and side hustles was our discussion this morning on Biashara Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Anne Odida. Keep it TV47. Of course, we are bringing you so much news from Homa Bay still, where the Devolution Conference is currently underway. You're watching Morning Cafe. Good morning.